How did this $5 action figure 30 years ago turn into all of this? Come inside, I'm going to tell you how. I'm Dennis Barger, 35-year veteran of selling collectibles. For the first 5 years of being in business, I was a little fish in a huge pond. I used to set up at flea markets. I would set up at toy shows. I didn't really have any aspirations other than just buying cool toys and helping to pay for it by selling the excess that I've overbought on. As you know, I got my start selling my childhood toys. See the previous video where I talk about that. But in 1995, Kenner Toys decided they were going to start doing Star Wars figures for real again. And so, of course, I had to buy those. So when they first came out, there were 8 separate action figures. But within a couple months, there was one figure in the case, Princess Leia, and nobody could find her. So I started going around and I started pulling out the one Princess Leia and I started stockpiling these because I was getting $10 a piece for them. $15, eventually $20 a piece these got up to. So this was kind of a first of its kind in the collectible market. A rare figure that you could buy at one price and sell for a much higher price. They called it toy scalping. So at the time, toy scalping was frowned upon, but I looked at it as a way to pay for my collection by buying some extra of the stuff the other collectors couldn't have and trading and selling it with them to have a full collection at a lower price. So in 1996, there's a gentleman by the name of Joseph Pereira. He was flying through Detroit and he read a newspaper article about a new comic book store that had been opening up. And he decided for some reason to clip it and come back around to it at a later date. About a month later, he was like, hey, I want to do a story about collectibles. So he called this comic book store. Well, it happened to be the comic book store I went to, Fun for All, in Ypsilanti, Michigan. And he was talking to them and he was like, hey, I've heard about these toys that can be worth a little bit more after they come out. He goes, oh yeah, we got a guy named Dennis Barger and he's like the Indiana Jones of toys. And anytime somebody's looking for something, we call him up and he finds it for them and he makes a little money and he usually takes it in store credit to pay for his comic books. Well, Joe gives me a call one afternoon. It was around April or May. And Joe was like, hey, I hear you do this thing called toy scalping. I'm really interested in that. Can I come out and follow you around and see what you do for the Wall Street Journal? And I was like, sure, no problem, come on out. So he sets up a time that he flies out to Ypsilanti, Michigan to follow me around and see what I do selling toys. Now this is 1996. April, May of 1996, I'm literally getting ready to graduate college. I had just proposed to my now ex-wife and things were going pretty cool. I was going to enter the radio business and I didn't have any plans of selling toys other than on the side while I'm being a radio DJ. And here comes this guy and he's following me around. And at this point, I had already downshifted. I wasn't doing the toy scalping. I was kind of more interested in vintage toys at the time. And I was also about to put on a Transformers convention because I found I made a lot more profit in Transformers because there was a lot less competition. So he follows me around for about 2 or 3 days. And he takes me out to dinner on the last day. And he starts asking me some more questions, just kind of background questions. And at one point he goes, you know, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, yeah, sure. He goes, last week I was sitting across from this millionaire who runs a billion-dollar company. And 2 weeks ago I was talking to a multi-millionaire and he ran a multi-billion-dollar company. And he goes, it's kind of weird. They kissed my ass the entire time we were together. And you don't do that. And I looked at him and I'm like, am I supposed to? He goes, no, I just think it's refreshing that you really don't care that I'm with the Wall Street Journal and I've been following you around for 2 days. So we go out and he goes, you know, I gotta tell you, Dennis, I can't get over the fact that if you were doing any other business than selling toys, you would be a millionaire already. And I just looked at him and it was probably one of those iconic moments in my life where I said, but would I be happy? And he chuckled. He said, no, probably not. So that was kind of the end of that. A couple days later, he called me and asked me a few questions. A couple days after that, he called me and asked me a few more questions. He said, I just pitched it to my editor, and the editor says he wants to move it from page 4 up to the front page. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. He asked me some more questions. I go to do a toy show in Chicago. I come back at like 2 in the morning. I'm exhausted. I go to bed, and around 4:35 a.m., my phone starts ringing. And I'm like, answering machine, please answer it. Side note, kids, answering machine is the thing that you plugged your telephone in that would take recorded calls for you, and you could play them back whenever you wanted, kind of like voicemail. And then 5 minutes after that, I got another call on my answering machine. I just let it go. I put a pillow over my head. I slept for another 2 or 3 hours, and all I could hear was the ringing phone. So I finally get up. I go to the answering machine, and what the hell is going on? And the first message is from Joe Pereira. And he's like, hey, Dennis, just to let you know, the story's going out in today's newspaper. It's definitely going to get picked up by the AP Wire, and you're going to be pretty famous today. The second call was from the company that makes these plaques. And they're like, hey, we just saw you on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Call us back if you'd like to get a plaque made of it. It's a company called In the News, and they still operate. And it's still a genius business model, because I gave them like $120 for that plaque, and it's lasted for 30 years. Everybody called me that morning. I got calls from newspapers, TV stations, radio stations. Everybody wanted to talk to the toy scalper. It put collectibles on a giant international map. When it was all said and done, I had over 200 newspaper articles around the world that picked up that AP story and wrote another follow-up story to it. I had at least 100 different radio interviews and at least 20 to 30 different TV local radio, and another 20 to 30 local TV stations that picked up the story, came out to my house, videotaped me, and made it a story on the newspaper. I had blown up big. You might say I was viral. So now I had a decision to make. Am I going to go into radio, which is what I just went to college for 6 years? A lot of people go to college for 6 years, but they're usually called doctors. Or am I going to try at this toy dealing thing as a career? I have no clue. For some reason, I thought, if the Wall Street Journal just blew me up this big, I think I have to try this toy selling career before I jump back into radio. So I got a call from the IRS after that hit the front page of the Wall Street Journal. And the IRS agent in Ann Arbor, Michigan said, hey, I'd like you to bring all your tax records down to our office so we can have a little discussion about how much money you've made. I'm like, oh shit. In the middle of that article, it says, industry experts say Dennis Barger can make up to $125,000 a year. I wasn't making anywhere near $125,000, so I knew I'm going to have to do some explaining. In the middle of that audit from the IRS, the agent came around his desk and sat on the edge of the table. And he said, let me explain something to you. Last month, I just investigated a $6 million ticket scalping ring that declared that they only made $50,000 a year. The month before that, I was doing a Nike sneaker selling ring that was making $1 million a year and only claiming $20,000 a year. And after I've investigated where you live and the car you drive and all of your bank accounts, I've come to two conclusions. Either you're the greatest IRS tax cheat the agency has ever caught, or you're not making anywhere near $125,000 a year. And I just was like nervously, yeah, I'm not making $125,000 a year. He goes, yeah, I didn't think so. I'm guessing you made about this much money, and you probably owe us about this much taxes. And in fact, if you write that check right now, I can cross you off my list and go back to catching real bad guys. So I wrote him that check, and he went back to catching real bad guys. That's a funny side note about fame and success, is the government is always paying attention. It wasn't all happiness and rainbows. I became the poster child for every collector hating that they couldn't find a rare toy at stores. I was the Kaiser Sose of collectible toys. If a store in California got cleared out, it must have been Dennis Barger visiting on vacation. If a store in Florida ended up not getting any of a rare Star Wars figure, I must have gone to Florida and cleaned it out. I was everywhere. And at this point, I really wasn't even doing toys that much. I was doing vintage collectible toys rather than modern, new, scarce toys. Guys, my life still was blowing up. I got 48 Hours, which was an old TV show, follow me around for 96 hours to cut it down to a 48-hour dissection of a day or two in my life. It ended up getting bumped twice, and then they never ran it. But I did a lot of those shows, and at the end of the day, I ended up doing a little show for a Canadian broadcast segment called Marketplace, and it was about rare, hard-to-find toys. And they followed me around.
Scalper's not really a great term to be associated with. I call myself a toy scout. Kind of like a Boy Scout. I'm a toy scout. We have a lot of frustrated parents who get a hold of us. You know, they're looking for that one toy that their son or daughter wants. They haven't been able to find it anywhere, so they either contact me to see if I have it or contact me to see if I can find it.
What part of the problem are you in all of this?
At the beginning, I'm usually not there. I find out about the toy shortages after they've happened. You know, and by the time I get into the mix, you know, when I have to put on the gloves and go in there and fight for them, you know, I'm determined. I'm going to find those figures.
That Marketplace episode was so good for their channel, they ran it for another 10 years every Christmas. It was such a perfect dissection of why a toy is rare and people like me who can find it for parents. By this time, I'd moved on. I was still selling toys, kinda. I went into some other avenues. I was a booking agent for celebrities for a while. I'll talk about that some other time. I dabbled in being an executive producer of an indie film, directed by the guy behind the camera right now. I've had a fun life, but 21 years ago, I decided I need to open a store. I need to settle down and have a place where I can help raise my kids, and it became a comic book store. Then the one comic book store moved, closed, reinvented itself, and now, here, at Cosmic Pop Retro in Toledo. 30 years ago today, I started the seed for all of this, and now this is my third store in the toy empire. And all of that just goes to show you, even if you're going to college for something completely different, and an opportunity comes up, and you make the decision to try this other, way more flimsy of a thing to see if it'll work out, after 30 years, I can tell you sometimes it does work out. I don't miss not being on the radio at 2 in the morning in 1997. It was definitely one of the biggest moments in my life, and that was 30 years ago today. And I just wanted to share that with all of you. Always go out and find a topic or something that you want to tackle and go for it. I'm Dennis Barger. Definitely living in the past today, and definitely celebrating the future.